to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani, coming to you from Interop 2011 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Today on our program is Devin Akin, who's the Chief Wi-Fi Architect at Aerohive. Now, this is an unusual thing for me, but I wanted to have Devin here because his company has a specific purpose in life. They are a Wi-Fi infrastructure company hell-bent on world domination. And you know, we get so few companies hell-bent on world domination here in the TMC Newsroom.
That's right.
We had to have Devin here to talk about that.
Somebody has to be.
So Devin, tell us, how are you going to take over the world?
Well, first, it starts with the right architecture. We built the internet and we brought it right into your Wi-Fi infrastructure. You can't kill it. It's Wi-Fi that won't die. And then we gave it cloud-based and premise-based management, so you can have it your way. You can have it at your premise in your data center. You can have it hosted in the cloud. You can slice it, dice it any way you want, virtualize it. You can have on-premise routers if you want. We have the technology. We have the goods.
Okay, so what are some of the new things happening at your company? They're going to enable this world domination.
So earlier this year, we bought a company called Pareto Networks. Their technology enabled us to scale the VPN for large numbers of sites, whether it's 5,000, 10,000 sites. We could deploy these things just by shipping them out, plugging them in. It's automatic and easy management of these devices. Large-scale VPN to go with that. It's still the Hive OS that runs on our operating system running on our APs that runs there. It cooperates seamlessly with our existing infrastructure. So that was a great acquisition. That technology has already been integrated. Those products coming out shortly. The second thing, we had a Series D round funding. NEA was leading that round, and a great new VC for us, and that gives us the cash flow. I mean, we could have been cash flow positive without that money, but I'll tell you, we don't want to be an also-ran. We don't want to be just another Wi-Fi vendor. We want world domination. So this money allows us to expand, whether it's data centers for Hive Manager Online into Singapore and Ireland, or it's to put feet on the street in ANZA or China, or all across Europe. I mean, we're expanding. You
can't dominate
everywhere.
the world unless you're
you gotta have money
all
to
over
dominate
the world, and you have to actually be in different places.
That's right. We got to have feet on the street, and we have them. They've been hired.
They're Risk.
Moving. That's right.
By the way, which makes me a dangerous person to be interviewing.
That's
right now.
We're building the A team, as I call it, the Aerohive team, but the A team and all A-list players. Every name that you've heard of in this industry is going to come here, and every single Wi-Fi vendor, every last one of them will copy our architecture or they will die. That is their only options. They can reinvent the internet if they want, but they should be a routing switching vendor if they're going to do that. So if they're going to be in our space, if they're going to play in our world, they're going to copy us or they're going to go out of business. So that's their only options.
Okay, so now you're making some big claims. We have some really big players in the Wi-Fi space,
yes.
right?
Yes, Cisco.
You got to say Cisco because they're big in almost every space. So
bring it on.
You've got Cisco. Okay, so let's go through this because they're the 800-pound gorilla in so many markets. I'm a customer. I'm watching this. Obviously, I'm amused, right? And also educated. I'm feeling educated and amused.
Who claims world domination?
You've got to have entertainment when you do this tech stuff because otherwise it gets kind of a little dry. And I'm trying to make this decision. I can go with Aerohive or I can go with Cisco. Now, Cisco is going to go in there and say that, okay, we're the 800-pound gorilla and we're going to seamlessly interoperate with all of this other equipment in your network. We've got this video thing, this telepresence thing that's going to interoperate, and MPLS works across the board, and VoIP and everything else. So you're Aerohive, you're going to go into the same customer, they're watching, they want to know why do they buy from your company and help you with your world domination.
We changed the paradigm from end to end. We didn't just change one little feature and say, we have better X. It's not about that. We went back to the drawing board. We started over with autonomous APs and said, how can we do it better? How can we not hack the solution into something it never should have been? How can we do it for the end game? What we've built is the end game. There will never be anything in Wi-Fi better than what we've built. It cannot be. The architecture is the final resolution. So we know that they will come to where we are. So if a customer is looking at this, the question is, do they want to ride this change with Cisco or any of their ilk? Do they want to ride that change and see, we buy this product today, then that goes out of style, and we buy this next product, then this next product, and they finally get to where we are with 4 or 5 iterations where the code changes, the hardware changes, they keep buying and buying and buying to get there. Eventually they're going to get to where we are. In the meantime, we have the feature sets, we've got the flexibility, we've got the scalability, we've got the cost model, we've got all of the goods today. We've got all of those things now. And so why wait 5 years while they're trying to split their engineering resources and split their marketing and say, one thing out of this side of the mouth and the other thing out of this side of the mouth? Why do that? Why don't you just buy something that'll work for today? You've got the mobile internet device explosion. It's unbelievable. It's happening right now. So they can't solve that problem. They have no solution there. And their competitors don't either. We have the solution today. We were built for this. This tidal wave, we are loving this. This is our heyday. This is what we've been waiting for. We're the surfer sitting there waiting for the wave, and the wave is hitting, and we're the guy that's going to be riding this while this thing kills all of our competitors.
Now, let me ask you a question. In terms of simple concepts like radio density and
Sure.
inside of access points, how do you leverage that sort of technology, or where are you on the spectrum of radio density and capacity in small areas or just highly dense populations?
So we support radio resource management in the same fashion as you might see from a Cisco or an Aruba or a Motorola. It works very similar capacity, or in the same way. The difference is it's cooperative, meaning all of the access points are talking to each other and cooperating. Whether it's features like load balancing between APs, or it's band steering from one band up, and the clients up into another band, we support all of those features. There's a lot of unique features in our system because it's fully distributed, where our system acts as one big computer. However many APs you have, that's how big of a computer you have. They all work as a team. So if adding more access points for us makes it more faster, it makes it more intelligent, it can do more. And so we have more high capacity features than our competitors do. Things like anchor and release, preventing roaming when it needs to be prevented, causing it when it needs to be caused, things like this. So we handle those things exceptionally well. We have stadiums as customers, super high density areas. That's a specialty with us.
Okay, so how would you compare to the following companies, like an Aruba or a Xeris? How do you compete against them?
In what scenario?
Typical scenario.
Okay, a typical scenario. So let's pick on Xeris first. So Xeris is, if you want to look at the theory of their sweet spot, it would be a trade show floor, right? You've got a centralized RF with a distributed architecture. So that scenario, would seem to be the right sweet spot for them. And yet on the show floor here, they don't even turn on 2.4. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they can't handle that kind of density. It looks like they can. You would think from this solution that they could. They cannot.
You're talking about B, like 802.11b?
Yeah, the BG and N on 2.4 gigahertz. The reason they can't handle the density, they actually are a controller solution. They have a controller in every array. And that controller saturates like any other controller at about, from our testing, about 350 megs.
So you're not saying that it's a radio frequency issue, just having too many APs on in those frequencies?
No.
Because isn't that another challenge that you've got to deal with? I actually spoke to the Xeris team yesterday, and I saw they brought over Spectrum Analyzer, and they showed me how many APs were on, I think, B and G and N, and it was staggering. It looked like 50, 60, 70. Isn't that part of the problem or not?
Oh, sure, in a scenario like this, but in the show floor here, they've turned on 5 gigahertz only, when most of the clients aren't even capable of 5 gigahertz. And in fact, they're not supporting, when they support 2.4, it actually tanks a lot of their throughput because it's a controller solution.
That's A, right? 802.11a? When you say
no, we're talking 2.4 gigahertz is their problem. Their 5 gigahertz is A and N.
Right. That's what's on.
Right. So in an N scenario, they perform fairly decently, but still their box is choked by the controller, absolutely choked. So that's a scenario generically, a common scenario how we compete. We can handle lots more density than they can. 200 clients per access point, and we can handle load balancing between those. And so in a given area, we could probably handle triple the density they could. And so competing against Aruba, our solution is still a multi-channel architecture, type of scenario, but they're controller-based architecture. Ours is fully distributed. It's a cooperative control scenario, so our scalability is only limited to that of the Ethernet infrastructure, not of a controller. All policy, QoS, security, everything is handled at the access point. You don't have any choke points at all anywhere, no single points of failure, no bottlenecks, everything at the edge. And so they have, even with distributed forwarding, they still have to pipe a lot of their traffic back to the controller because things like SIP and TFTP and FTP are stateful protocols. They have to go back to a central firewall so the session information can be updated. These vendors have either a glimpse of what we have or they're trying to move in our direction.
Right.
And so, you know, in Xeris's case, they have a distributed architecture with centralized RF. That's half the picture. In a case of Aruba, there's still a controller scenario, and they're trying to do distributed forwarding, and that's less than half the picture, but they will continue to move in our direction. So competing with them is quite easy.
So Devin, obviously the companies that, I mean, this video is probably going to get wide viewership, and
Sure.
in part because, I mean, you're making some claims which are great because you're taking on companies head to head, and most of my guests they kind of shy away from that. So the question becomes now, if I'm watching this at home, how do I get independent analysis? Because obviously, not only you asked me in what situations, was one of your responses to one of my questions, different situations, you've got different kind of performance. How do people watching this in corporations trying to make decisions for their organizations figure out which is the best solution for them? Is there independent testing? Do they have to get one of each access point and put them on in a room and then turn on 2,000 devices and see which one chokes? How do they do it?
So I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of independent testing firms because a lot of times, not in all cases, in some cases those independent firms are hired guns. And so you pay them enough money, they'll say whatever you want. And to be quite honest, there are independent firms, but a lot of times you don't want them to test your, you know, a vendor might not want to test stuff because what they come back with is not marketable, right?
Okay, so what do they do? So tell us what to do.
Yeah, so a customer should do their own due diligence. You know, a vendor should be able to go in there and say, here's the product, and we will help you. We will show you. Here's how you test the scenario. Beat it to death.
Okay.
And do
so
your
call
own.
all the big vendors, have them come in, do a bake-off.
Absolutely.
See which one wins, and then you move on, right?
Yes.
The best man wins.
That's right. You should. The customer should do the due diligence for their organization. Test it. Look at the architecture.
Okay.
Look at the solution. Is it easy to use? Don't buy based on politics. Don't buy based on sight unseen. Look at the architecture, look at the capabilities, look at the data sheets, that's fine, but put it in there and test it. Make sure it can do what you want it to do, all the features work, make sure, do it yourself. We welcome that challenge at any time.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the program.
Thanks, Rich, I appreciate it, man.